Shalom, ladies and gentlemen. Today, as always, we'll be talking about our weekly Torah portion. Our Torah portion called Balak, which is kind of surprising because the main character in our weekly Torah portion is Bilam, the great non-Jewish prophet, the alter ego of Moshe Rabbeinu. But the question why Torah decides to call this weekly Torah portion by the name Balak. And we have quite a few those chapters when the chapter is called by the name on certain character. Mostly those are central character to the story, like in next Parsha Pinchas, Korach. But we have also Yitro, who is his name is titled probably the most central Torah portion when we talk about the Dibrot, 10 Commandments, and Revelation on Mount Sinai. But I believe that the reason why Balak is carrying the title of this weekly Torah portion and not Bilam, because always when we call by somebody's name the Torah portion, that means that something they come to teach us. And let's see how the story goes. Balak facing a unique problem that never happened before. He has a new player in the Middle East, and it's Israel, the Jewish people. Everybody talks about them. They at all the news titles. They everywhere. Some strange miraculous things happen to them, and everybody talks about this, and everybody impressed by them. And even the biggest skeptics, when they see the things that happen to Jewish people, they say something special. Something is special with the Jewish people. And especially now, beginning from the previous chapter, we read about the war campaigns of the Jewish people, and they destroy the enemies, and Balak is worried. His country is right on the way of Jewish people. He has to find some kind of way to confront the Jewish people. And he figured out a very important idea that was adopted by many of our enemies, by Aman, by the Greeks, by the Romans, throughout our history. He understands when the Jewish people are in a proper spiritual state, when we are close to our Avinu Shebashamayim, to our Father in heaven, nothing can destroy us. So he has to start the warfare not on the battlefield, but on a spiritual dimension. And what he does, he goes to professional. Who is professional? Bilam, who knows different ways to manipulate things, how to bless, how to curse. He hires his services, he comes to curse the Jewish people, and it ends up as the blessing. But then there is a very important moment. I think the absolutely timeless lesson that we can learn actually in a negative way from the behavior of Balak. To understand this, before that, I want to tell you a short story about the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rebbe Maharash, who was sitting in his study, and he looked out on the window and he saw his two sons, one older, one younger. It happens that the younger son was taller than the older, and obviously the older son had a problem with this and affected his behavior. So they were playing in the garden, and the younger son and the older son, who was actually shorter, he digged the hole in the ground, and he pushed his taller brother in this hole, stood above the hole and said, "Now I'm taller than you." And then the Rebbe saw his wife that came out to the garden, took a chair, put on the ground, and took the older son, who is a shorter son, on the top of the chair. If you want to be taller, you grow up, not push somebody down. I think it's an amazing lesson that we can learn today, because in our society today we see it's all over the place. When we feel bad, when we're miserable, we want others to be miserable, even more miserable than us. We are not self-sufficient people who are just joyful and happy with what we have. We have to have more than somebody else. This is what makes us happy. When we are happy, we must be happier than somebody else. I'm not here to teach Balak what to do, but why he didn't hire Bilam to bless his nation, rather he wanted to curse the Jewish nation. So I want to wish to everybody that we will be better, that we will be joyful, not more than somebody else, but just happy as ourselves. Thank you very much. See you next week.